Good evening and welcome to Election Night 2026. We'll be going over today the 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate Democratic primaries. Let's first go over where things stand for the 2026 U.S. Senate elections. Heading into this race, Republicans currently hold 53 U.S. Senate seats, Democrats currently hold 47. With just a blank map of the 2026 U.S. Senate elections, Democrats hold 34 seats, Republicans hold 31, with 35 seats uncalled on the map. The Democrats need a net gain of 4 U.S. Senate seats to flip the Senate control from the Republicans to the Democrats in 2026. If the Democrats only get to 50 Senate seats, Republican Vice President J.D. Vance breaks the tie. So the Democrats need to hold on to the Senate seats that they have and flip 4 Republican seats. And Michigan's going to play a very important role in that. Now, based on the consensus Senate map from the Cook Political Report, things currently stand where the Democrats have 47 Senate seats they are projected to win. Republicans are favored to win 49, with still 4 Senate seats currently forecasted as a toss-up, including the Senate race in the state of Michigan, which we're going to talk about today. So who are the candidates that are running in this 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate primary for the Democrats? The 2 leading candidates now are Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens. Now, just a quick little synopsis on these candidates. Abdul El-Sayed could be looked at as the progressive favorite. He's the candidate that a lot of more democratic socialists would gravitate towards. A comparison that I have for him essentially is someone akin to Zohran Mamdani, that sort of progressive Democrat that's sort of risen out of nowhere, though he did run for, I believe it was governor back in 2018, but he's that candidate that's very much in that mold. He has the endorsements of Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ro Khanna. Whereas Haley Stevens, she could best be described as like a establishment Democrat, the establishment favorite. The argument for her candidacy, she would have a stronger general election appeal than Abdul El-Sayed. A comparison for her, I actually kept it in state with Michigan on this one, and the comparison I chose was her potentially new Senate colleague in Elisa Slotkin, is someone that I think she could potentially be compared to. She has the endorsements of Chuck Schumer, current Michigan Senator Gary Peters, Nancy Pelosi, and former U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow. Now, the state of Michigan is very important, as in the past few elections, it has been one of the closest states in all of the United States for recent elections. For president in 2024, it was just won by Donald Trump by only 1.4%. 2020, Joe Biden won it by 2.8%. 2016, Donald Trump won it by 0.2%. And then before the Trump era in 2012, Barack Obama defeated Mitt Romney here by 9.5%. On the U.S. Senate side, it's arguably even closer in the last 2 elections, where the Democrat Lisa Slotkin won by 0.3% in 2024. U.S. Senator Gary Peters won it in 2020 by only 1.7%. 2018, the first President Trump midterm year, went for the Democrats' Debbie Stabenow by 6.5% in that race. 2014, in the Republican wave year, it voted 13.3%. Now, on the governor's side, Gretchen Whitmer in 2022 won re-election by 10.5% after she won the seat in 2018 by 9.6%. But prior to Whitmer, it was Republican plus 4.1 for former Governor Rick Snyder, and in 2010 he was elected with an 18.2% margin of victory. So Michigan has been very competitive, especially in the last 4 to 6 years or so in the Trump era, and is a state that certainly is capable of going to both the Democrats and Republicans, depending on the election environment and depending on the candidates. So where do things stand for Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens in terms of the political markets? Well, both from Kalshi and Polymarket as of July 17th, 2026, which is the day I'm recording this video, Abdul El-Sayed is favored 67% chance on Kalshi and 68% chance on Polymarket to emerge as the winner in this primary, whereas Haley Stevens is favored 34% in Kalshi and 34% in Polymarket. So both averages are very similar here, though there has been a recent trend in the last few days or so of Abdul El-Sayed's chances going down, Haley Stevens' numbers going up. A large part of that is Mallory McMorrow dropping out of the race and a lot of endorsements coalescing around Haley Stevens, though Abdul El-Sayed is still the leader as of now in these polling markets. So this does show a trend in Stevens' direction, but still Abdul El-Sayed is currently leading. For the polling averages, it shows a pretty decently similar story. When you look at all the averages on the screen here, I have about 6 polling averages. 5 out of the 6 have currently a Abdul El-Sayed lead, including the Wikipedia polling average, which is taking a bunch of polling averages and averaging those up, has Abdul El-Sayed at 41.8%, Haley Stevens at 40%, with still roughly about 10.6% undecided. That is ultimately what this race will come down to, is there's still a good amount of undecided vote left out there, depending on the poll. And Mallory McMorrow dropping out of the race, as well as a certain uncertainty element to this race, as well as we don't know who her supporters are ultimately going to end up supporting on election day. For 270 to wins average, Abdul El-Sayed is leading by 3.7%, 36.5 to 32.8. For Decision Desk HQ, similar results at Abdul El-Sayed plus 3.4%, 43.7 to 40.3. For Race to the White House, Abdul El-Sayed's only up by 1.6%, 41.9 to 40.3%, with 14% undecided on that one. Real Clear Politics' Real Clear Polling is the only average that has Haley Stevens leading. She's at 45%, Abdul El-Sayed's at 41%, a 4-point lead for Stevens there, with 14% undecided. For the 50+1 average, Abdul El-Sayed's up by 4.2%, 46 to 41.8, and then as I mentioned, the Wikipedia polling average, 41.8 for Abdul El-Sayed, 40% for Haley Stevens, 10.6% undecided. So again, as of July 17th, very close in the polling averages, though most of the averages do show a very narrow lead for Abdul El-Sayed heading into primary day, but certainly a very, very close race. What are some of the key areas to watch for the election results overall? First, for Abdul El-Sayed, he should do very well in a lot more strong progressive areas like college towns, also high Arab populations like Dearborn, Michigan. For Haley Stevens, she should do well in the more rural suburban areas and among moderate voters. Now, the main wild card for the state of Michigan is obviously the city of Detroit, the largest city in the state. This is a wild card, as both Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens do have claims to that area, and that's going to be a very important test to see which candidate is doing well in the state, depending on how Wayne County in Detroit overall is going. But with both Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens having very considerable strengths in the state, in different parts of the state as well, this should make for a very competitive primary that we likely won't know the winner until all the votes are essentially in. So this should be a very, very close one. We officially are coming close to poll closings. We're going to be finding out very quickly what is going on in the state of Michigan. In just about 10 seconds, we're going to begin getting our first results out of the state of Michigan in the 2026 U.S. Senate primary to see who will take on Republican former Representative Mike Rogers in the general election, and hopefully for the Democrats holding the seat for them for another 6 years, as the Republicans are hoping to have one of their only flips on the 2026 Senate map go to their side. Very important stakes in this 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate primary. So obviously, as the polls close at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we can officially say the U.S. Senate Michigan Democratic primary is officially too close to call between Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens. Not too much of a surprise here, but too close to call. As some of the early results have begun coming in out of the state of Michigan, you can see on the map here on the right, still nothing yet out of the city of Detroit. But with 5% of the vote in across the entire state, approximately 61,328 votes have reported. Abdul El-Sayed is currently getting 52.2% of the vote, just shy of 32,000 votes. Haley Stevens currently getting 42.3% of the vote, just shy of 26,000 votes. Mallory McMorrow, though she did drop out of the race, her name does still remain on the ballot. She is currently getting a modest 5.5% of the vote, just shy of 3,400 votes, though that number is expected to go down as the night goes on. But a lot of early votes and mail-in votes were already sent in for Mallory McMorrow and absentee votes, so her name will remain on the ballot, and she will get a decent amount of vote that could potentially play spoiler for a candidate later in the night. So obviously we have a long ways to go as these votes begin to come in, but with 5% in, a very early lead for Abdul El-Sayed over Haley Stevens. We officially have a vote results update out of the state of Michigan to go over for you right now. With now 27% of the estimated vote in, approximately 350,000, just shy of that vote now in across the state of Michigan. And Haley Stevens is taking the lead in this race, now at 51.7% of the vote to Abdul El-Sayed's 46% of the vote. Stevens currently has 180,531 votes. Abdul El-Sayed has 160,870, so just shy of a 20,000 vote lead for Haley Stevens across the state of Michigan. Mallory McMorrow has 2.3%, 7,000, about 8,000 votes or so in the state of Michigan. Obviously, not playing spoiler right now, but again, the potential that are being on the ballot could play an important role of keeping one of these two candidates from breaking 50%. It should be important to note as well, Michigan does not have any voter requirement numbers, such as you have to break 50% of the vote to win, or there's a runoff or anything like that. Michigan does not have those. Whoever gets the most votes will end up winning. So that's just an important note for right now. But with 27% of the vote in, roughly about 350,000 votes, 1/4 of Michigan's vote is now in. Haley Stevens is now taking the lead over Abdul El-Sayed. We have a very important vote results update out of the state of Michigan to update you on right now. And some more votes have come in out of the state of Michigan, with 47% of the estimated vote reporting, roughly about 609,434 total votes across the state of Michigan. We're nearly halfway there for the amount of votes in. And Haley Stevens currently has 50.3% of the vote to Abdul El-Sayed's 46.9%. Stevens has 306,522 votes. Abdul El-Sayed has 285,662. So we're looking right around a 21,000 vote lead for Stevens over Abdul El-Sayed. Mallory McMorrow on the ballot at 17,250 votes, roughly about 2.8%. So as about another quarter of the vote has come in out of the state of Michigan, Haley Stevens' lead has grown only by about 1,000 votes. Those you start to see on the map, a lot of counties are filling in green for Abdul El-Sayed, blue for Haley Stevens, including some votes out of Wayne County, Detroit, which are coming in for Haley Stevens, but coming in very narrowly under 5% of the vote. That could potentially be a worrying sign for Stevens if Abdul El-Sayed can make up ground in other parts of the state, though we'll have to wait and see if he can do that. Haley Stevens has the lead right now, and is certainly the very close polling averages are living up to the early results thus far. A very close race is underway in the 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate Democratic primary. We have a vote results update to update you on right now, as we have some movement in the 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate primary. With now 67% of the estimated vote reporting, roughly 879,054 votes have come in across the state of Michigan. You're starting to see the map fill in more here. And a very significant development, Abdul El-Sayed has now narrowly taken the lead over Haley Stevens in the results. Abdul El-Sayed currently has 48.6% of the vote to Stevens' 48.5% of the vote. Mallory McMorrow is at 2.9%. Stevens, currently 426,185, is trailing Abdul El-Sayed's 427,268, only roughly about a 1,000 vote lead for Abdul El-Sayed over Haley Stevens at this current point in time in the race. An absolutely incredibly close race that Abdul El-Sayed has narrowly taken the lead over Haley Stevens in this race. And still roughly about a third of the vote to go in the state of Michigan, still yet to be reported. This is truly anyone's race at this current point in time. An absolute close one happening in the state of Michigan. We have a very big vote results update for you out of the state of Michigan. With now 85% of the vote in, it continues to be a very close race. 1.1 million votes are now in. Abdul El-Sayed has a lead over Haley Stevens. 48.9% of the vote for El-Sayed, 48.1% of the vote for Haley Stevens, with 3% of the vote for Mallory McMorrow. So McMorrow's margins right now of about 33,000 votes is enough to play spoiler between Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens. Abdul El-Sayed has just shy of a 9,000 or so vote lead over Haley Stevens right now, with still 15% of the vote left to go. This remaining 15% of the vote dump is going to be very crucial, as there's enough votes for Haley Stevens to catch up to Abdul El-Sayed, or there's enough votes for Abdul El-Sayed to narrowly hold on and win this Senate race. It's very, very close in Michigan. Truly anyone's election right now. An absolute barn burner underway between the progressive Abdul El-Sayed and the establishment favorite Haley Stevens. And we're going to be getting those results for you out of the state of Michigan very, very shortly. And we officially have a major election night projection to make for you here in the 2026 Michigan U.S. Senate Democratic primary. This candidate will officially be going to the general election. We have that for you right now. We can officially project, after a very hard, closely fought Senate primary, that Abdul El-Sayed has been declared the projected winner in the Michigan U.S. Senate primary, defeating Haley Stevens in an absolutely very, very close barn burner election to be the Democratic nominee in November. With the final results, 100% of the vote now in, Abdul El-Sayed ends up winning this primary 49.7% of the vote to Haley Stevens' 46.9%. Mallory McMorrow, despite dropping out of the race a few weeks ago, ends up having 3.4% of the overall vote. In terms of how things filled in, Abdul El-Sayed ends up getting 651,327 votes. Haley Stevens gets 614,026 votes. McMorrow gets just shy of 45,000 votes. So when you look at how things overall played out, under 50,000 votes separating Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens shows how close and how competitive this Democratic primary ultimately was of the 1.3 million votes that took place in Michigan. So definitely very good turnout for a U.S. Senate primary in the state of Michigan, over 1.3 million votes. Nonetheless, Abdul El-Sayed has been officially declared the winner over Haley Stevens in a very close fight, and it is advanced to the general election. And you can see on the map here, between the counties that were won by Abdul El-Sayed and Haley Stevens, there's a big mix of green and blue on the map here. Certainly a very competitive election. A lot of counties that were decided by under 5%, under 10%, under 15%. A lot of very close competitiveness underway in the state of Michigan. So with that, that is officially my election prediction for the 2026 U.S. Senate primary in the state of Michigan for Abdul El-Sayed versus Haley Stevens. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, I really appreciate it if you could hit like and hit subscribe as well. It really helped me and my channel out a whole lot if you could do that for me. You can see in the circle in the top left the subscribe here button to subscribe to the channel. On the right, there are going to be two video pop-ups for you. My latest video will be on the top, and a recommended playlist by myself will be on the bottom as well. In the bottom left of the screen, you'll see my channel name, Anthony's Election Center, which you are currently watching. On my Facebook, Anthony.ElectionCenter is also there. And if you want to reach out to me on email, anthpredicts@gmail.com is my email. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. If you want to look for any of these, obviously in more time, please feel free. But for now, though, that is it. I really thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.